What's going on? Good morning, everybody. I don't think anybody in the States is up right now. I am in my Airbnb in Cape Town for the next several days. My wife and my daughter, we're all here. Check it out. Nice spot. Very nice spot. They're asleep right now. I am up. Sleep schedule, of course, is completely out of whack. And, man, you guys gotta travel. You gotta travel. The last time I've traveled internationally, I was Cymatic. What's up, Cy? What up, cuz? The last time I traveled internationally was 3 years ago when I got married. I brought my wife to Jamaica, and I told her, I said, the next time we travel internationally, we're going to go to Africa. And it's very, very, very important that the family that we're starting, this black family we're starting, that we're international. And we're not just stuck in America. America's great. Proud to be a first-generation American citizen, but nonetheless, international travel is important. So, we were traveling. Let me turn on some lights. It's kind of dark in here. Oh, my God. My daughter has dropped so many toys on the ground. I'm stepping on everything. So, we traveled. We got to England. And right before we got on the plane, we were told, you can't travel without your daughter's birth certificate. So I was like, oh, man. So we had to spend the night in London, but it was cool. I'm glad my wife and daughter got to see England. I've been there a few times, but of course they haven't. My daughter's one. But it was nice being able to show my wife, like, London and stuff. So, it was a silver lining. Well, anyways, we finally made the flight here to Cape Town. And I sat next to this white woman named Linda from England. Linda, I don't know if you're watching. It was great meeting you. But Linda was great. Linda was a 60-year-old white woman from London. And her husband died about 2 months ago. So she was traveling here to Cape Town to be with her friends and family and just hang out. Because she has family and friends here in Cape Town. So we had a great conversation. And the first thing Linda asked was, are you an American citizen, Kevin? I said, yeah, I'm an American citizen. My wife and my daughter, they're asleep. She said, oh, okay. That Donald Trump sure is something else, isn't he? Now, I'm on an international flight, right? My wife, my daughter and I are the only 3 black people on this 747 jumbo jet that is full of humans going from London, England to Cape Town, South Africa. 747, that's a jumbo jet. It's one of the biggest commercial aviation airlines that fly today. Filled with people. We're the only 3 black people on the whole flight. So that's fascinating in itself. Well, no. 4. There was another sister on the flight. We had a great flight. People were very kind, So anyways, that's not a problem. But I'm like, oh, man, Linda really wants to talk that talk. She wants to have a conversation. So I said, honestly, Linda, as an American citizen, I respect the presidency. I respect who the president is. Because we all know who Donald Trump is and has been for several years. I mean, going back to looking at the history of Donald Trump being sued for mistreating African Americans that worked at Trump Towers, not giving African American tenants, our future tenants, the ability to rent from him, putting out a whole press release in the New York Times about the Central Park fictional rape of a white woman who lied and said 6 black men raped her. And those black men were sent to jail, Rikers Island, and Donald Trump supported them being sent to jail and saying, they're terrible guys, and it was found out later it was all a lie. So, everybody in America knows who the guy is and has been for a long time, and how he feels about melanated people. So, I'm trying to break it down to Linda in the kindest way, because when you give people the truth, you know, sometimes it can hit him like a ton of bricks. And Linda, she said, you know, I don't know about that Donald Trump you guys have, and I don't know why things are going on in the States that are happening. You know, wasn't all that stuff done with after the Civil Rights Movement? And man, I laughed so hard. And I said, Linda, Malcolm X, Martin Luther King, you know, that was just icing on the cake. Nothing has changed. A lot has happened, but nothing has changed. Because today we have, you know, the alt-right movement, and they are coming with all this racial rhetoric and indoctrinating young white Americans to believe that certain people who look a certain way are bad. And she asked, she says, what's the proper way to describe you, Kevin? You're African American, right? And I said, well, you know, I'm a black American. And she said, wait, hold up. Kevin, why would you say a black American and not an African American? And so I said, Linda, if I say I'm black, there is no way whatsoever that you can deny who I am. And it's the only differentiator that I have. And I have to use it, even though I'm first generation American. My parents are Jamaican. And she says, well, isn't that offensive? I said, no. I said, Linda, listen. If a young person who was born in America has stringy hair, light skin, and a non-broad nose, has parents who are Egyptian, I said, you realize that person is technically African American, right? You know, if a white Afrikaan, which is, you know, white people of Dutch descent who decided to hang out in the African mountains of South Africa and claim themselves as an indigenous people of Africa, said, you know, if they go to America and get an American citizenship, they are technically African American. She said, oh my God, I never thought of that. I said, right. So, you know, we in America now differentiate ourselves by just saying that we're black, because it's really the only tell-all be-all to say that we're black. I said there's a lot of policy written for minorities, and you, Linda, assume that all black people are minorities, right? She said, yes. I said, well, did you know that white American women are also a minority class and group? She said, I did not know. So we just had a great conversation. And, you know, I wasn't aiding and abetting any stereotypes or anything like that. But one question she asked that really stood out to me was, how can it be that there's still this idea of racism going on? And she specifically asked about the alt-right movement. And I said, you know, the alt-right movement is like 20 and 25-year-old white boys with funny-looking haircuts who, for some odd reason, are very threatened by people of color in America, and more specifically, black people. And I said, you see how it's important that we differentiate between African American and black now? She says, yes, I do. And she said, well, where is this coming from? And I said, well, I mean, let's be for real. Slavery was like 200 years ago. That's like 3 very old people's lifetimes. It's not that long ago. And the Civil Rights Movement was like 50 years ago. And all those old guys who were on the other side of the Civil Rights Movement, who we don't talk about. We only seem to talk about the people who marched with King. You know, what about the guys who were beating the people who were marching against King? And let's not talk about the people who hated Malcolm X. Okay? So, nonetheless, I say that to say, I said, well, you know, not all those guys are dead. A lot of them are in nursing homes, but also a lot of them are at home with their children or grandchildren, you know, living out their last years, spitting that racial rhetoric, that hateful venom to their grandchildren. And their grandchildren are now assuming that they're in danger of losing whatever spot in society was originally reserved for them. So because of that, you know, they're hateful and they're vindictive, and they have a lot of venom towards non-white people because of a fear of one. And I had to get a little deep with her. And I said, you know, there's a book called The ISIS Papers. You know, Dr. Frances Cress Welsing wrote this beautiful, prolific book that opened my eyes to a lot of things. And I said, you know, there's a fear of genetic annihilation, and there's just a fear of your almost guaranteed spot in society being taken away from you because there's now more competition. And I said, nothing has changed. And you know, I told her, during the Reconstruction period of the United States, you know, there was a little town called Tulsa, Oklahoma, where a lot of black people who were former slaves or, you know, direct descendants, like grandchildren or direct children of slaves, came, brought their resources, money, and talents, created a town. There were movie theaters, there were churches, there were several banks. And I said, do you know, it was looted for 3 days and then airstriked with dynamite. And it was the first or one of the worst domestic terrorisms that ever happened on U.S. soil. She said, I did not know that. I said, and I asked her to start writing the stuff down that I was telling her so she could Google it. So I'm like, I'm not telling you anything that's not, accurate. And I also wasn't telling her this to change her mind about anything. It's just a white woman who asks me, an American, why things are so bad in America. Because honestly, guys, Tariq Nasheed would always say, the international community knows what's going on in America, knows what's happening in America, knows how strange it is that America has not yet overcome this race problem. Because in the United Kingdom, all of my cousins, not all of them, but a lot of them, have married white people. And we're all Jamaican. And it's no big deal. You feel me? It's not a problem. But in America, it's still so taboo, so weird. So I told her, I said, historically, one of my professors, Professor Jerry Grimes, once told my class, said, and this was at Shaw University, shout out Shaw U, he said, historically, people of color have never mistreated non-melanated people poorly. But whenever there's a situation where non-melanated people are in the majority or in power, they always treat the people of color poorly. She's like, oh, it's so sad. I say, yeah, it's pretty sad. And she says, but Linda then says, but there's nothing wrong with being proud of your heritage, and you should be free to be proud of who you are. And I said, yeah, Linda, no one is disparaging that. And a white person of British descent, of American descent, has the ability and the right to be proud of being white. The problem is when you feel that whiteness, because remember, race is a construct. The problem is when you feel that whiteness entitles you to more in society than other people. And even if you're nonviolent, you then, in fact, go out of your way to deliberately make sure resources are not allotted to other non-whites. So that's white supremacy. It really isn't necessarily just hitting somebody over the head. A lot of it has to deal with resources. So Linda said something interesting to me on the plane. She says, well, you know what, Kevin? In South Africa, white men are the minority. And I said, well, I understand that. I've done my research on South Africa. I understand it's like 19% white, 80% black country. And I'm thinking to myself, like, duh, it's Africa. But Linda's like, well, what happens in South Africa is when white men go for jobs, a lot of times they don't get it just because they're white. And whoever is doing the hiring gives the job to a black person. And when that black person gets the job, they're not always qualified for the job. So I ask, well, when that black person gets the job, do they strive to do the job very well? And again, I say, Linda, this is just a conversation we're having. This is just your opinion. She says, well, no, not all the time. Not all the time. And I said, well, Linda, honestly, it's anybody's right who is in the powerful position of hiring somebody to hire somebody who they feel is best suited for the job, or somebody who even looks like them. I said it happens in America all the time, where white people who are in the position to hire someone can hire someone just because they remind them of themselves. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. The problem is when there's a monopoly in certain markets or in society where only white people or non-melanated people have the ability to hire and pull other people up and no one else, that then we invent that invisible glass ceiling. So it's funny, I'm laughing in my seat because here's a woman telling me that it's so wrong that oppression, if you will, is happening to white people in Cape Town, South Africa. And I can tell you, since I've been here the last 24 hours, it's been very beautiful to see a bunch of black people everywhere. People who are, the manager's black, the employees are black. And people have been very kind out here. I mean, of course, there You know, we walked into a hotel today and went to a restaurant, and the owners were white, and they just came in, didn't speak to anybody. They're just watching everything, and you know, it's a little weird. I'm asking the employees, like, who are these people? Why are they looking at me, my wife, and just everybody in here, and then walking out? And they're like, oh, you know, they're the owners. I thought, okay, I get it. So, you know, just still that here, but it's just funny that when you go to a region where there's maybe a little bit of marginalization against the global dominant group of people, which are white people, that other white people notice that very quickly and say how unfair it is. So I was like, Linda, you know, Linda's like, oh my God. You know, Linda pretty much hit me with, remember that episode of Martin? When Martin said, Gina, I'm not going to your office party because I don't want another white person walking up to me and saying, Martin, I just saw Boys in the Hood and I didn't know, bro. I swear to you, it was the same conversation with Linda. She's like, I didn't know it was that bad in America. I didn't know these things were happening. I didn't know. And I'm like, Linda, it just do be like that sometimes, you know? And so it's just very interesting. Everything's very interesting. But with that, you know, Linda, white, 60-year-old woman from London, knows about the alt-right in America, knows that Donald Trump, or at least her opinion of Donald Trump is that, as she said verbatim, he's crazy. And so, you know, the global majority knows that unfair things happen in North America all the time. So I make this video to sum it up. And again, I'm here in Cape Town, South Africa. It's my first visit to Africa. I figure, hey, first time we get here, we'll go to one of the more westernized places because it'll be an easier indoctrination to being, you know, to getting the ideas of the culture of the continent. There's 52 countries here, you know, it'll take a lifetime to see the whole place. But this is the first stop of many. Well, anyways, I say all this. I make all this video just to say, at the end of the day, man, people know about the atrocities that are still going on in America. People read history, you know. What Hitler did, essentially, could happen again if groups like the alt-right are allowed to reign prosperous and have their rallies and be spit racial rhetoric that divides people. You know, I am a very politically correct guy. Most of the time in public, I do my best to be. But it's not that time anymore. You know, when you have a foreigner who's white, who hits you with the, I didn't know it was so bad spiel, then you understand that everybody gets it. And when we're in America and we're among our colleagues and our friends who are not melanated and who don't have the fears when they're driving home every time they see the police, things like that. Like, you know, we spoke about Trayvon Martin. We spoke about what happened in St. Louis and that police officer getting off after saying on video he was going to kill the African-American gentleman and killing him and getting off. Like, you know, we talked about all that. And she's like, well, I just don't get it. You know, I thought you were tried by a jury of your peers. And I said, exactly, that's the point, your peers. And I broke down the term, the silent majority, and where that comes from in history and who the silent majority is. And, you know, I'm just breaking the game down to her, not to change her mind about anything, because it's not my job to. I'm just giving her facts. And Linda was like doodling things down. I said, Google everything I say to you, because it's all historically accurate. I'm a bit of a historian, you know? So it's not for rebuttal, it's just me breaking down to you why things are the way they are. People outside of America can't believe America's the way it is right now. After Malcolm X, after Martin Luther King, after Marcus Garvey, after Barack Obama. She said, well, what about Barack Obama? She said verbatim, he was a very eloquent guy. And I'm like, yeah, Barack Obama was the man. And she said, but it seemed like his hands were tied. They didn't let him do much, did they? This is a white woman in England telling me her opinion of Barack Obama is that they didn't let him do much. And I said, yeah, you goddamn right, they didn't let Barack Obama do much. They did not. And then we laughed and we both said in unison, who's they? We'll never know. The silent majority and the powers that be. So I say all that to say, you know, it's serious. If you're a black person, don't say African American no more. That could be anybody, you know? Even when I was breaking that game down to her, I was even kind of surprised with myself. Like, oh man, I'm making a lot of sense here. when you're a black person in America, we can't play games with these things like the alt-right. We can't play games with things like racism. We can't allow that to come back. We can't. We have to be progressive like a place like Britain. And you know, Linda even admitted Britain still has their issues with racism. You know, more so instead of it being towards African people, it's towards people of Muslim descent. What's the proper way I should pose that? It's of people who belong to the Muslim religious community. And, you know, I broke down to Linda. I said, Linda, Linda, I'm a Christian, but if you look into the Quran, there's nowhere in the Quran that talks about mass acts of violence. You know, violence is like, at the end of the day, the last resort if you're a Muslim. Muslims are very peaceful people. Just, you know, there's extremist Christians, there's extremist Muslims, there's extremist everybody. It's just people who are allowing the wrong things to happen. So, again, let me end this video. It's like 20 minutes long. I'm saying all this to say, things like the alt-right, it's not cute. The Nazi party started because a dude named Adolf Hitler didn't like the direction Germany was going in and was like, I'm going to create a party, a national separatist party. Nazi, national separatist. All right? We're separating from the views of the country of Germany because we don't like where it's going. We're the Nazis. All right? They locked my dude up in Germany because he was dividing too much. And he wrote his memoir, his autobiography called Mein Kampf. He pretty much dropped the mixtape in prison. Everybody loved it and loved what he was talking about. He came out a national hero. He was given a job back. Like my man Tariq Nasheed says, white people don't get fired, they only get transferred. So even though his government locked him up, his government then gave him a job when he got out. Yo, you gotta do your history. You gotta read or watch a documentary. There's a great documentary called, it's on Netflix right now. It's called World War II in Color. Or World War I in color. I think it's World War II in color. Check it out. It's a wonderful documentary. It's very long, but they break down the real cause of the World War very well, very eloquently. And what they did was they colorized all the black and white footage, so it's very easy to watch. So check it out. So I say all that to say, what happened in Nazi Germany is it is happening again right now in North America, and it's dangerous. We cannot let it happen again. We can't. This doesn't mean you go out and, you know, we hurt other people. It just means we do what we can where we are. So with Valley of the Queens, the web series, I'm creating a web series where black people see a hero who is also black fighting for justice, because not just on a basic level, but on a spiritual level, it's very important that the world be a fair place, or else everything messes up. That's the point of the web series. That's the point of it all. So like this video, share this video, please, please, please. Keep the train going with Valley of the Queens. It's gonna be an amazing web series. You know, episode 1 and 2 are fun, but it's about to it gets real turned up in episode 3. You know, so many awesome ideas. You know, a good friend of mine, his name's Alex, and Alex is, you know, good guy. He's like, yo, I want to be a part of the web series and help you out. And there's all these ideas and places we can go with it. And, you know, I gotta say, when I was talking to him, you know, a lot of the ideas he had were ideas that I was thinking about, but at the same time, kind of intimidated me. Because I'm like, man, can we really do this? But the answer is yes. And I'm all turned up and charged up because I traveled internationally, and I gotta remember the point of it all. All right, guys. So it's 5 a.m. Thursday in Cape Town, South Africa. It's beautiful, man. I'm showing you guys the view. Check this out. Check that out. That's the view right now. It's the ocean. That's the stadium all the way down there. I don't know if you can see it. Very nice. But yeah, man, I'm going to try to get some sleep. I'm going to go see some things tomorrow. So, Valley of the Queens, episode 2 is coming soon. Like and share this video. Please leave a comment. Share your opinions. And when you meet the Lindas of the world and you're a black person, don't be afraid to kick the facts. It's not a time to get all radical, be rude, or anything like that. With respect. Kick the facts. All right? Love y'all. Y'all be safe.